Welcome to Strength, Love, and Healing with Authors Alcove. I am your host, Angie Wolf. Today I have Kathy Baldwin, author of Unlearn the Crap about personal success and empowerment. She's also the founder of Rise Up Coaching, an oasis for women navigating the demanding world of business. With her transformative burnout risk assessment, Kathy helps women identify their stress thresholds and begin the journey toward healing from the inside out. Kathy's innovative programs, including Drive Your Destiny and Unlearn the Crap, equip women with the tools to reclaim their energy, purpose, and well-being. And today we will be discussing some of the common things we need to unlearn because we want to unlearn that crap and how we already have everything we need. And also we want to discuss a little bit about her Rise Up coaching and some of her aims with that business. So thank you for joining us, Kathy.
Oh, thank you, Angie, for having me here. I'm excited.
Could you just share a little bit about your background and how you have gotten where you are today?
Absolutely. I was a corporate career woman in sales and marketing. I was a lifelong passionate learner, so I was always going to retreats and learning everything from quantum physics to biochemistry and everything like that. I was one of those women who gave everything I had away. And when I was empty and when I was broken, I gave more. And eventually your body says, okay, we're taking you down. I was taken down with a full breakdown and had to learn to rise up myself. And so I took all that information that I had been gathering for 40 years and created my own healing journey, bringing in all of that as well as energy healing. And once I came out of that process and discovered that I was the best version of myself, I had no choice but to share the information.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So your book is called Unlearn the Crap. What exactly is the crap we need to unlearn?
We were funneled through a world of conformity. We were brought up with judgment of right and wrong. We were controlled with power of debt and being wanted and liked. All of that took us away from who we are. So we need to unlearn the crap that we are powerless, that we don't have a purpose, that we are just like everybody else, that we are not as powerful as the creator who made us because we are a part of that entire system.
I know one of the things that you had said is that we need to forget that fear means run to safety. What did you mean by that?
Well, our whole body talks to us. There's a whole language, and our brain is programmed to keep us safe. It's programmed from dinosaur prehistoric days, and it has not caught up to today. So fear back then meant life and death, and you'd better run. Well, now fear means I don't have a program in my brain for this. This is new. And if you go out into this, you better pay attention because I don't have a program to just put you into automatic pilot.
One of the other ones that really resonated with me that you had mentioned is the lie is that we need to have experts take care of us. And I know like from early on, I have a lot of chronic illnesses. My daughter has type 1 diabetes. And so this was something I needed to teach her is I had to learn the hard way that doctors don't really know your body as well as you do. And so that's something that I've really tried to ingrain in my daughter with type 1 diabetes is that they know the science behind it, but that's all they know. They don't know your body. And so sometimes you do have to listen to your gut instead of, but what were some of the things that you have run into yourself, realizing that experts don't need to be the ones to take care of us?
Oh my goodness. I've had a lifelong battle with stress and trauma. And so I would be going to the doctor with all sorts of complaints. I can't sleep, my body hurts, I have headaches. And there was just one thing after another. They would send me for tests for cancer and all these diseases, but nobody ever sat down and said, okay, what's going on with you the whole body, whole life, and treat me as a holistic being. And eventually I had adrenal fatigue, fibromyalgia, I had osteoarthritis. Like my body was just I did not know what it was like to live pain free. I was so used to pain, it was just a degree of pain. Was it a really bad day or was it a whole Advil day? And then when I broke down, and I remember this was the worst. This is the worst of it. When I broke down, I went to a psychiatrist to help me. And he sat me down and asked me every single trauma, stress, everything I'd ever gone through, wrote me a prescription and sent me away. Well, when I spiraled and the police had to break down the door and drag me to the hospital because I was totally gone. And when I went back to the psychiatrist and I told him what happened, he says, my role in your healing is not about your healing. It's only about your medication.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That would have been nice to know that before he just gave you a bunch of drugs.
Well, it would have been nice before he sent me on my way with Pandora's box open and didn't warn me, oh, by the way, when you have a seeping wound, you have to heal it before we send you on your way.
Right. So I know that a lot of the stuff that you have mentioned that we need to unlearn is cultural conditioning. How does cultural conditioning contribute to our self-perception, and what are its effects on our mental and physical health?
Well, you've got to go back into history. So thousands of years ago, the church and monarchy were the ones who controlled information. They were the ones who controlled education. They were the ones that decided who got wealth and who did not. And it was all over power and control. Well, that system has really not been broken. When we came into the industrial age and we started taking people out of the farms and out of the communities and into cities where they didn't know anybody and they were isolated, the social system was created with our public schools. And it was all about teaching us how to get a job. So the curriculum was based on what jobs were out there. It wasn't based on who we are. It wasn't based on how to discover our gifts and what we can bring to the world. So the whole social conformity, and the part that bothers me about it is they know how our brain works. They know how our body works. They know how the chemicals of dopamine and all the stress hormones and everything work. So we can be controlled without knowing we're being controlled by saying you're not good enough unless you buy this product. You don't fit in unless you're wearing this. And it's become a whole conditioning of what it takes to become a real accepted person. And that just splits people into pieces. We've never had so much mental health issues. We've never had what we have right now. I think this is just what society has done in the name of profits over people.
Right. I know that this book is also about personal success and empowerment. What do you believe is the truth behind even those success and empowerment if we're not going to be following the standard of our culture and go at doing the whole school job and then
White
success?
picket fence, yep, out to retirement until you die. The whole idea is that when you understand what your body is saying to you, I learned a hard way that the chemicals of our body, the programming of our mind, the rewiring of how all that works, when we understand it, our heart speaks a language out into the world energetically. Our gut speaks a language. Our emotions, everything speaks a language. And when we understand what that language means, then we can have a two-way conversation with our best inner higher self. And then when we become aligned with who we are and we use universal laws as our guidepost, everything is possible.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that we have everything in that we need. What do you
Yes.
mean by that?
I mean, our bodies were equipped with everything. We have a frequency vibration of our emotions, and that gives us our GPS. When we understand what the senses of our body is transmitting into us and creating these programs, well, if something's happening that's disempowering to us, we can change the narrative to what is. We can rewrite our history, our story. We can do whatever we want. For example, the law of relativity gives us the ability to choose our story based on our relative perspective of it. So if we have a story that is dangerous to us, like example, I'm not wanted, I'm not good enough, I need to give more, people before me, all the rest of that, we can undo that by understanding the language of our body and how to write it ourselves.
It appears that you're talking a lot about the mind-body connection. What are some ways that we can enhance that connection and we can listen to our own bodies as it's telling us the different things that we need to know?
Well, first thing is stop and listen. Get rid of the outside noise. Pay attention to the sensations of your body. Pay attention to what sets your central nervous system off and puts you on high alert. Know that if it gets set off, you have the power to turn it back off. And you can calm yourself. You can calm yourself with your breath, taking a deep breath in, out. You can control how your sympathetic nervous system works by your visualization, rewiring your brain, all these different things. So it's knowing what your body's saying to you and those subtle little things and not ignoring it and not pushing it down and not suppressing those emotions.
And you have the Rise Up coaching where you help coach people. And part of that is energy healing. And I
Yes.
know that energy healing can seem kind of
Woo
crazy
woo.
to some. Yes. Could you just like demystify it for us and explain its role in facilitating, like transforming our minds and our bodies?
Absolutely. The whole thing about the book Unlearn the Crap is to demystify all of that. That we are chemical, bio, electromechanical beings. We are a system. So when we have something we're suppressing, that emotion is a chemical response. When we leave that chemical in our body and don't process it through our lymphatic system, then our immune system comes in and creates inflammation. So when we have that inflammation in our body, because we are 100% energy, the only way to release that is to use energy. Just like Albert Einstein had said that the future of medicine was in energy. And he's absolutely right, because we're energy beings. So knowing that I had fibromyalgia and I knew because of all the stress I had that I had all these pockets of chemicals sitting in my body. I mean, chiropractors had told me this for years. And so when it came time to healing, I thought, if it's energy that we're made of, if it's chemicals that are trapped in my body, I went looking to see how to release it. And Dr. Bradley Nelson has a system called the emotion code and the body code. He's a chiropractor. He found out how this all works and created a system. I used that system on myself. I released all the pain. I released all the trauma. The weight got lifted off of me. And then I thought, okay, I need to become a practitioner. I need to tell people that it's chemical based.
What are some approaches that you take in order to help with this energy healing?
It's muscle testing and then communicating with the unconscious. So that you let the unconscious mind, which is 95% of how we respond to everything, you let it guide you instead of the mental brain that has been programmed and in thought try to decide. You actually let the energy of that subconscious mind say, this is where it hurts. This is where it hurts. And once you know where it hurts, it can be released.
And so you're talking both about like our physical manifestations of our pain, our inflammation, and all of that. But you're also talking about some of the limiting beliefs that hamper our growth. What are some approaches that you take to help people identify those and be able to release those as well?
I use universal laws for that. For example, when you understand, I think I mentioned before about the law of relativity. Can I give you a weird example?
Definitely.
Okay, so my mother was this amazing woman and she had this fantastic sense of humor. And she would walk around saying, I'm so perfect, I don't have bodily functions. Okay. Well, I had digestive problems so bad, and it really affected my life. And my mother would say, nobody has this much gas. There's something wrong with you. When I was able to go back to that belief that there was something wrong with me if I had a bodily function and my body was so ashamed of it, it was trying to hold and suppress that. It was the most ridiculous little thing, but it affected my life, my health, everything because of that silly joke that my brain took and made a belief that had nothing to do with reality.
That's a really interesting idea because I think oftentimes there is shame, especially around certain gases that we have and expelling those. And so, like, I never had thought about the fact that even those are limiting beliefs
Yes.
about ourselves.
Like it says you're not supposed to have these functions. Be ashamed of them if you're out in public. Suppress it. You're not supposed to do this. And we live in shoulds.
Right. My counselor has often told me, don't should yourself.
Yes. But
So,
society shoulds us.
yes, they do. So, what is you talking back about your book, Unlearn the Crap? What is one of the most pivotal concepts from your book that you believe can change the way we view specifically midlife, like where we are right now in life?
Midlife to me is a second puberty. We are now going into a different stage of our life, but nobody has told us how to transition. We were taught how to transition the changes that would happen in our body, mentally, physically, socially, everything. But in our second midlife, our body is usually screaming at us, there's something wrong. I want more. What am I missing? And to die with regrets, to die with a life that's unlived. I have watched a couple of really important people to me die and say, but I didn't, I should have, I could have. And it's such a sad way to leave.
I find it interesting you talk about it being kind of like a second puberty because I am 42 right now. And so majority of my friends are in that between 40 and 50 stage. And you do have all those hormonal changes as well. But also I have noticed that each of us have struggled in different areas of anxiety, depression, and those sort of things. And I never really made that association that it is sort of, it's a new stage of life, just like a transition of puberty. That's a really good point.
Well, I was in this place and I just felt lost and confused and I just kept pushing, but who I was done, but I didn't sit down and figure out. I built businesses. I worked in corporate worlds where we had vision and we had purpose and we had values and we had all of these things. But nobody ever said you can do that for yourself. You can create your identity. You can create your vision and your values. You can fully step into whoever you want. Well, most of us up until that second puberty have just evolved. Whatever life threw at us, we just kind of evolved through it. And now we get a place where we can consciously choose.
That makes a lot of sense. So, what's the first step for someone feeling stuck in their midlife, and how does Rise Up methodology facilitate their takeoff?
Well, I'd love the first step to be read Unlearn the Crap about personal success and empowerment. But I also suggest that if you're in that place, you're feeling lost and confused, and you know there's more, I do have a 3-step program that I can help people go through. And the first step is to clear out the past, the unlimiting or the limiting beliefs that are there, the stories that aren't empowering us, and then learn the language of your body, learn how to connect to your heart and find out what your heart and soul is crying out for, and then create the identity and the journey to go there.
I love that. So I know the word that I've had for this past year was authenticity because I want to live a more authentic life. How do you help people prioritize authenticity in and also societal approval.
You can't have both.
Right.
You can't have both. So if you got to choose society over you, this is where I think we are. When I say unlearn the crap, it is time for the individual. The society has taken us where we are. We've created systems that are unsustainable. Our financial system is breaking. Our government systems are breaking. Every part of the society that we are living in is unsustainable. So it's time for the individual. It's time for the individual to step into their power, their glory, and be the piece of the puzzle that the world is waiting for.
And if somebody wanted to work with you, how could they reach out to you and where do they need to go?
riseupcoaching.io is my website. I can be reached directly at Kathy at riseupcoaching.io. I've got Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. And I believe you're going to have some show notes as well, right?
Yes, and I have several different links for you because you had provided a good list of them. Thank you so much for that. And I'll make sure I put those in the show notes. But I did want to ask one more question before you go. If you could give just one piece of advice to someone struggling just to move on, what would be that one piece of advice?
That the struggle is their body's way of telling them they're going in the wrong direction. It's not that there's something wrong with them. It's not that we're breaking. It's not anything. It's at the nearest safest place, make a complete U-turn. That is our GPS talking to us. And yet we have caught this belief that it means we've broken. We haven't broken. We're just heading in the wrong direction.
And I think it goes back to we're always looking to other people to be the experts on our lives, not realizing that we have that knowledge of what is best for us.
Absolutely. And your discontent, your anxiety, all of that is saying you're in the wrong place. Turn around.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kathy. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I also just want to thank our listeners. If you would like to visit her website or read her books, you can find the links in the show notes. If you like this episode, you may also enjoy my episode with Debbie Weiss, the author of On Second Thought, Maybe I Can. Again, Kathy, thank you for joining us. You can find her book, Unlearn This Crap, in the show notes and her website for her coaching business, Rise Up Coaching. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Authors Alcove. We will be back next week on Wednesday, where we will have a writer share yet another piece of work. Also, every other Tuesday, we do learn from experts such as editors, marketing execs, book cover artists, illustrators, and more. If you are interested in being a guest on our show, feel free to go to authorsalcove.com, go to the podcast tab, and then click on Be a Guest. If you're looking for a healed heart, hop on over to our sister podcast, Strength, Love, and Healing with Authors Alcove. You can find that on Spotify and the Apple Podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. Have a great day.